You can tell we've got a new boy in the group tonight, can't you? He doesn't know the rules.
Where am I reading the chat, by the way?
You're not. Shut up. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the show. This could either go really, really well and be amazing, or it's going to be a car crash. Right, so helping me tonight, you can tell who one of them is already, is this bunch of reprobates. I got Wayne the Woodturner. Ruby, you're muted. The ever lovely Ruby Claire from Canada. And the one and only Dan Smith, RPT, from Taylor's Murfield and True Grit Finishes. To use his full titles that he's put up. Dan's come along tonight as a guest earworm. It was about time we had him on, seeing as I support the use of True Grit, and he's come along. So if you've got any questions about True Grit, pen kits, Taylor's Murfield, with Maclays, fire them off at Dan, he'll be able to answer. So I'm going to put myself in the background. I'll put them in the background. And I will start changing camera. No, I won't, because that one's not working. I'll change camera with this one, hopefully. My touch portal isn't working.
That one's not working either.
Nope.
We didn't check cameras, Mark.
No idea. I checked them before I came in. Hold on. I'm going to have to do it the old-fashioned way. There we go.
There we go.
And if I start that, bear with me 2 seconds, folks.
No probs.
And then stop that, reset that, and reset that. No. That ain't working. Okay, well, it's going to take a bit longer tonight then, because I'll have to go back to the computer every time and change camera. Right, so what am I doing? Doing a treasure box. Treasure box is a slightly larger than normal box, and I'm going to use, this bit's going to be the base, and that bit's going to be the lid, and instead of the usual end grain box, this is going to be a side grain box, or a cross grain. So, slightly different way of turning it, and I am going to mention him. I'm shamelessly ripping off a style by Richard Raffin. So if anybody watches his channel, go watch and see how it's supposed to be done after you watch me make an awful mess of it. So the first thing I'm going to do is going to put the lid part on a worm screw. Shape a tenon, and then I'll be able to turn it round, form the lid. And while I'm doing this, hopefully Wayne will be reading out, or can read out the chat.
I'll start doing that. So starting off, we've got Gerard in, we've got Roy's the boy, we've got Andy from Door 60, Jennifer's in there. Good evening, Jennifer. James Crawford's come in, Brian with the Y's in, Ward's in from the west coast of Arizona, Rob from Copper Owl, Ruby's here.
I am.
Pete Twisted Trees is in.
Pete!
In.
Pete, my portal stopped working.
He just sent you a message that says that there's been an OBS update. It should still work, but if you give him a shout tomorrow regarding the touch portal connection.
Right, I did the OBS update and my Elgato still works. Malcolm Douglas is in, Fred Gilliver, Wivvy's in. Terry Bartlett's in. Steve Gordon,
Do have a
Tony
pencil here
Smith.
somewhere. There it is.
Going down. Susie's in. Well, that was a nice piece you turned today, Susie. Peter Kelly. Douglas. Evening, Douglas. Joe Garofalo's in. Dan's here.
Oh, yeah.
Kev at 9K Creations. Philip Greenwood. We're getting there. We're getting there. Oh, Katie's here as well. Evening, Katie. And I think that's about us. I'm down at the bottom there. If I have missed anybody, I apologise. Stick another comment in and I will mention your name.
Right, so all I've done there is shaped the tenon and thrown a bit of a shape onto the lid. That gives me the size I need when I'm playing with the bottom. I do have
What
a
are you
spacer
using
on
tonight, Mark? What size is it?
Right, the lid is ash and the bottom is, I think it's actually a bit of elm. And it is 150mm across,
6-inch.
6-inch, and the lid, which I've just thrown on the floor,
The lid's on the floor.
is about 2.5. My hand
Norman
kept things
Greenwell's
from
just
behind the
come in.
haystack. Don't know where my ruler's gone.
About 5 centimeters thick.
Yeah, it's 100mm, 4 inches at the widest part. Right. So what I'm going to do here is, of course, I'm in proper Devon then, didn't I? What I'm going to do here, I'm going to hold this on a very shallow mortise, but I want to get the shape down first on the outside. I don't really want to go much thinner than the base here, so I'm not going to lose much off the base, but I'm going to go in and I'll put this on over it so you guys can see. Over it soon. There you go.
According to my YouTube, you've got 47 in at the moment, Mark.
Oh, thank you very much. Good evening and welcome, everybody.
For those of you who came in after we started, we've got Dan in tonight, Dan Smith from Taylor's Murfield.
Hello.
Also E. Werman. So if you've got any questions for Dan about True Grit or any of the products that he does, including the Viva Mac lathe, stick them in there and I'm sure we'll be able to help you.
Don't go shooting off the end when you're doing a piece like this so it doesn't splinter out. Come back in from the other side. I actually want that to come in a bit steeper. So stop just short.
Susie's got a question for you there, Dan.
Oh, 1 second, I'll see if I can find it. Susie.
Well, the question is, are there any distributors in Switzerland that sell True Grit?
Not currently. We focused on the UK side of it at the moment. But that's not to say that there's not a few that are asking questions. It's just we kind of had to focus on the UK side first. And we're nearly there with that now. And then we'll move on to the more Europe side. But to be honest, the priority was always the UK market. But that's not to say that we're not prepared to look to people. But we want to pick the right people as well. We don't just want to in with anyone. We've always been conscious of who we put it in with. We want people that kind of understand understand woodturning, I guess, as opposed to just selling it for the sake of selling it, if that makes sense.
And Rob's just come in from Clinsborough Brazers. Good evening, Rob. I need to ask you a couple of questions. I'll probably email you tomorrow.
Actually, I've had to reduce the diameter because I realised that the lid is smaller than I wanted it to be.
Mark, have you done one of these before, or is this your first go?
Oh, see, now he's asked the magic question, hasn't he, Wayne?
Yes, he has. As I say to everybody who does live shows, always practice what you're going to do before you do it on live.
And how did it go, Mark? Have you got an example to show us? Have you got an example you could show us, Mark?
Sorry, Dan, I couldn't hear you then. I was too busy concentrating.
Sorry, would you like me to say it louder?
Good stuff.
Now, Gerard's asking you a question as well, Dan. Gerard's over in Ireland, not Northern Ireland, Ireland. Have you got any, or are you going to be any plans for distributing over there?
We do have an Irish a company over in Ireland, in the island of Ireland, interested. To be honest, that one of the European side of things that's kind of thrown a spanner in the works has been this Royal Mail cyber attack.
Yeah.
Because we've had that many people contact us, and we've said, oh yeah, we'll send you a sample out, let's have a look, sort of thing. And then as soon as we were in a position to actually start focusing on sending samples out to people and not just making it for orders that were in hand, with the Royal Mail cyber thing happened. And what happened with the Royal Mail cyber attack thing was that all the couriers then smashed the prices up through the roof because they realized that nobody could go to anyone else. So the samples haven't yet gone out, but we've had a lot of interest. We've had quite a bit of interest from a company in Portugal as well. So there's quite a few European companies that have expressed an interest, but we're a tiny little business. There's me and Katie that are we're obviously running Taylor's Murfield, and we're now also trying to manufacture a product which is very new and has had so much support. But we're just trying to walk before we can run, if I'm honest. But that's not to say that we don't want to get it out there,
Right, bearing that in mind, Douglas is asking, are you going to be doing a fine one?
We've got one in the sampling stages. We've not put it out far enough for people to actually test, but we've got one in the early stages. But again, the focus was getting the first one right, and now we can start looking at other products. But we have a sample on the go. But like the first one, the one that's out there now, it's had, before it actually went out to Harrogate, it had 11 sample pots that had been sent out to people to test. And for every 11 that we sent out, me and Katie had trialed and tweaked it about 3 times. So it's had about 30, maybe 35 different tweaks before it's got to the stage it's at. So we want to get one out there, but it's
Right.
not. We're not gonna rush it. We want to make sure that it's right before it goes out.
Yeah. Mark, Fred has got a question for you. Have you put any products on your website for sale yet?
In regard, well, all the things I make are on the web. Everything that I make that's on the website is for sale. True Grit, obviously I'm a distributor for, and also soon to be full stocking of Klingspor abrasives, so they're going to be on the website as well.
Is the reincarnation from the sample, that the first one of these that you turned earlier, is that going to be available on the website as well?
So I never actually answered your question about that earlier. I've not done one of these before. I've made loads of boxes, but not one of these Richard Raffernesque side grain boxes.
So it's a gamble then tonight, then, really, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
James, we had a question for you. How often do you practice?
I've seen that. How often do I practice before I live?
Not as much as I do.
Jane's laughing at the moment. Now, somebody asked me in the chat last night, what are you doing on Wednesday for your live? And I said, I've got no idea, but it might involve colour. I don't tend to practice any of my pieces before I do a live. I always preach that you should, just in case, but I don't tend to. Now, Kev is asking Douglas a question. Douglas asked a question about the fine true grit. Kev has said, Douglas, are you thinking the same as the microcrystalline? No, he's not, Kev. What Douglas was asking was about a fine abrasive paste. That's what he was asking about. More like the type of thing that you use on resins and things like that. And Lucy's just come in. Good evening, Lucy.
I think that should be deep enough. Let's have a look. Just going to check that that's going to be good enough to hold.
How many of those chucks have you got, Mark?
4.
Yeah, so it's people like you in the woodturning world that people don't like. You know, that sort of element of greed that takes over with people that have.
No,
SK
it's
114s.
It's manufacturers in the woodturning world that actually like Mark.
Yeah.
I have 4 chucks because I'm lazy, and I'd rather change a chuck than change the jaws.
I tend to agree with you, Mark. I have numerous chucks for each of my lathes.
How many chucks have you got, Dan?
Well, that's not fair, is it? It's not fair to ask me something like that after I've just mocked you for having 4. I think don't forget we've a classroom with 3 lathes in as well.
Don't care.
We might have 6 or 7, but that's not the point. The question was for you and not for me. And also, my chucks aren't all 300-pound chucks like yours are.
Yeah, exactly. Tom Tango Parker's just come in.
So I'm going to start with a bit of 180.
I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got 5 chucks.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I've got an old Axminster chuck, which only goes on the VB.
I just realised, suppose technically I've got 5 chucks as well because I've got a dedicated pen blank drilling chuck that's over there. So that's, yeah. All right.
And then the Valley Woodturner Bundy Rose just come in.
So what different chucks have you got? Sorry, Mark.
Go on. No, I've slowed the lathe down because I'm not going to run with dust extraction tonight. Normally, obviously, you would have dust extraction on. So I've slowed the lathe down just so it doesn't spread the dust everywhere. because I'm not using it.
Right, for
Right.
everybody out there who has got numerous chucks or a number of chucks, you don't really need to have a number of chucks. You know, you could just buy the separate jaws. If you got one chuck, the likes of the Axminster chuck, there's loads of separate jaws you can get for that chuck. If you've got a record chuck, there's loads of separate jaws you can get for that chuck as well. Same as the Sorby. So you only really need one chuck. It can just be a bit of a nightmare changing the jaws all the time.
Yeah. And to be fair, when I am teaching and I've got a student here, the way I teach, I have a matching piece in a chuck. So they have their chuck with their piece in it. I have my chuck with my piece in it. I take theirs off, put mine on, do a bit of turning. They watch. Then I take mine off, put theirs on, and they turn. And
You need
it's
a
easier.
second lathe, Mark.
I was just going to
I
say
do.
that.
That's in hand.
Right, and Andy Bundy Rowe has said, "Good evening, Fluffy."
Oh, it begins.
It begins.
That's an interesting.
I must
Why do they
admit-
call you that, Mark?
Right, do you want me to explain that, Mark?
Yeah, you explain.
Right, Jamie Page, that is, sent Mark a parcel last week addressed to Sir
Got it here
Mark,
still.
Sir Mark Fluffy,
To Mark
Beckett,
Fluffy Beckett
Esquire.
Esquire. And then in the notes section, he said to the postman, ask Mark about his YouTube channel. It makes him feel special.
Well, it does make you feel special. You have to admit, Mark.
Oh, it's very special.
Yeah, don't encourage him, Ruby.
Yeah, but if you didn't have a channel, all these 53 people wouldn't be here watching you.
So I've gone up to 240 quid now, changing the subject quickly. $240. As you can see, I've
Right, so
done.
when you're hand sanding
bit of a-
that, Mark, you're not using a power sander or anything on that,
No, not
even though
power
it's cross
sanding.
grain.
Yeah. Hand sanding it. Again, because I'm not using a dust extraction, I want you guys to be able to hear what I've got to say tonight when I'm doing this. I've got the filter
Okay. Paul
extractor
Cavanaugh's
running
just
above
come
me.
in.
I've got the workshop filter running. Just
And
not
Roger
the-
Kent's just come in as well. Gerard's got a couple of few chucks as well.
I was
And
actually
Douglas
just
has said, Fluffy, how are you feeling tonight?
I was just going to say actually that some of the chucks now. I mean, we sell the Charmwood ones in the shop, and they're interchangeable with. I think it's the Nova record, the newer records, the Patriot. So they're quite interchangeable now on a lot of the chucks. Axminster actually are the exception, is that you don't get the crossover with the Axminster ones.
Yeah,
but that's quite a nice
you
situation.
used to be able to get a chuck that was interchangeable with Axminster.
Versa chuck.
But you used to get the jaw
Yeah, the
carriers,
Versa
didn't you?
chuck. Yeah, the Versa chuck, which is now sold by
Beaufort Inc.
that company in Edinburgh, Beaufort Inc. That's it. They do the Versa chuck now.
I know Axminster used to do jaw carriers for different people, and then they clearly realised that people were buying cheaper jaws off cheaper Chinese jaws, so they moved away from that model. But the Axminster chucks I mean, we've got those in the classroom, and they are something else.
So that's a bit of sand and sealer, chestnut cellulose sealer. I thin mine. Don't ask me what I thin it, because
I was just going to ask that.
It starts off 70-30, but by the time I get to the end of the bottle, it's probably about 50-50. It's not exact. So, guess what I'm about to use? I'm going to get all excited.
Right,
now.
there's a question there for you, Dan, from Gerard, the French turner.
Oh, yeah. Dan Is the Charmwood a bit the same as the original Viper 1? Mine lives at Charmwood 824 and Kilnby Viper 2. So the Charmwood have got 3 different chucks now. They've got the Viper 2, which is like a 2.5 inch one with a direct thread of 1.8 inch. But then they've got the Viper 3 and the Nexus 3. Now the Viper 3 is the older one, and that fits all like the Supernova, like Supernova 2 and the older record chucks. Was it the RP 4000 and some of the Vitmark chucks, and then the Nexus 3, which is the newer one, that fits all the newer chucks. So Sorby Patriot, the newer Nova ones, the Record SC 3 and 4. So there's three chucks. The Nova, the Nexus, and the Viper 3 are actually the same chuck body. They've just got different jaw carriers.
Right, okay.
So they're exactly the same chuck with the exception of the jaw carriers. So they clearly decided, we're going to make sure our jaws fit.
Asking, who are the earworms tonight? Yeah. In answering you, Roy, we've got myself, Wayne the Woodturner. We've got Ruby Clare, who is over in Canada, and we've got Dan Smith from Taylor's Murfield.
Hello.
Dan's the one that doesn't shut up.
I'm the one that can't get a word in edge.
It's not very fair coming from you, Mark.
I gotta get my own back when I can. So I'm using True Grit here.
Dan was a teacher. Shut up. Dan was a teacher. He's used to speaking all the time.
Hey, now wait a minute, Wayne. I used to be one too.
There you are.
So did I.
You used to be very quiet in the classroom.
My classrooms generally were.
Go on, Mark. I'll let you speak now.
So I'm using True Grit here. So sanded up to 240. Then I used an application of sanding sealer. Use one of your choice. Good dollop of True Grit. A piece of paper towel. Work it in. Slow the speed down to about 350, 400. If your lathe will only go down to 500, it's fine. Maybe just don't apply as much on the first go, so it doesn't fling it everywhere if your lathe only starts at 500. And I'm just working it in exactly the same as any other abrasive paste. Work it in, let the grit do the job, let it break down. As it breaks down, all the dust gets caught in the paper.
Now,
Right.
Kevin,
Go on, Ruby. I'll let you do that.
okay, Kevin's asking, there seems to be loads of chucks now with a metric M33 thread. And he wants to know if this is going to be the standard going forward. His Axe Minster is a 1/8.
It seems to be.
And what I've found out is, like in Canada, the only ones with M33 are the one-way. The King, the record power that we have here, you either get them a 1" 8 or a 1 1/4 8.
Is that the new record powered, Ruby?
Well,
That's Record Power Canada.
I think they did it for Canada.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, they'll do
And
it.
I
They'll
think-
do a different thread size for Canada.
I think the States, they've gone with the 1 1/4 and the one as well.
Yeah.
So,
The M33 it tends to be a standard thread size, certainly on larger type lathes, or the more trade professional type lathes. The M33 seems to be the standard thread.
yeah, the ones like Powermatic made in the States and that, they're all 1 1/4 8.
All right. I didn't realize there was a different size for different countries, to be honest. I just presumed that everyone was the same. I know 1 1/4 8 used to be the original Nova lathes from New Zealand.
Well, there's also an interesting.
The US use Imperial, so they don't tend to do metric anyway.
Fair enough, yeah.
Well, there's also an interesting difference in how tools are measured.
Yes.
The continental method of measuring like a bowl gouge is to measure from one side of the flute to the opposite side.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's the way we do it.
If you go up around Sheffield, though, they measure the outside of the flute to the other side of the tool. And if you come over to North America, we just measure the width of the metal used to make the tool. So it's outside to outside. So what we measure as 5/8 might come in as 1/2 inch with Sheffield and come in as a little less with the continental measurement.
Right, that was a bit of a Wayne of the big feet. Bit of his finish that he gave me last year. Because this is a utility piece. It's not going to be, it's not really used for food. So it doesn't need a food safe finish on it. And I think with pieces like this that are going to be used, if you put too high a finish on them, too high a gloss finish, people are afraid to use them. They think they're going to ruin the finish.
On the other hand, I find that people like a gloss finish if they're going to buy them.
So that's the bottom. There's the mortise. Bit of a detailed button, double button on the bottom. So I'm going to hollow this out now. So I need to change chucks.
For anyone interested in the football scores tonight, I thought I'd give you a quick football score update. We've got Blackpool 0, Huddersfield Town 0. That's the important one. And Sheffield and Wrexham, it's still 0-0. So there's your FA Cup fixture.
There you go.
Yeah.
Tin Pot Cup.
There's been lots of chat going on about thread sizes and chucks at the moment.
Well, what most of the companies are doing is they're now making inserts so that they will cover the M33, the 1 1/4 8, the 1 inch 8, and the different ones people are using.
Oh, I bet you wish you'd done a demo piece now, aren't you?
Good point, Dan.
Are you glad you had me, Mark?
Yeah, so glad.
I thought you would be.
Now, Peter Kelly said football. What football?
It's the round one.
I
think the round one and not the egg-shaped one.
Yeah, it's the round one.
Soccer.
Yeah, it's not hand egg.
Hand egg, no, it's football, yes.
Right, Kev has said again, Mark, is that a length reducer screw on the thread or was it loose? It's a length reducer.
It was just it's just a homemade spacer, just because I didn't need all of that thread in there.
Did that originally come out the bottom of a bowl, Mark?
Knowing me, do you know what? Knowing me, yeah, probably did.
Or was it the bottom of a gobbler?
Martin Ford's just come in. Evening, Martin. Oh, Benjamin's in. I didn't see Ben come in. Sorry about that, Ben. And he has said, Mark, did you know you can put Amazon boxes in the recycling bin?
I don't know where he's going with that.
That one.
I think you might be looking over in the corner there.
That one there. That's still got the shelves in it, so I'm not putting that in it.
See, my focus would have been on the turning, not on what's behind Mark.
Ben is always looking behind.
But this is Ben we're talking about here.
Well, the only time you look behind the turner would be like when Terry was turning and he changed his cupboards from a beautiful blue to a white. And everybody knows that white shows the dirt.
Right, Kev. The piece that Mark was doing did screw onto the chuck. It wasn't loose.
Yeah, this had a, it's got a worm screw hole, same as that did, and they screwed onto that chuck with that worm screw on, with that spacer on, just as a reducer. Okay, right, let's get this center hooked out.
And Pete said, excellent camera position, Mark. I can't see the ground wheel with the guard missing on that view.
Oh, Pete, shut up!
Roy's just asked if I can see the chat. I can see the chat.
So all right, sorry.
If you'd like me to turn it off so I can't see it, then I'm prepared to. But just let me know when I can look at it again.
Okay, I think I've totally misunderstood what Kev was talking about there. Right, the spacer didn't screw on; it just fit over the top of the screw chuck.
Oh yeah, no, it just drops on. It doesn't have to screw on. It's literally just a spacer.
Sorry about that, Kev.
Brian with the Y makes a good point. If you fill an empty Amazon box with rubber, seal it and leave it on your doorstep, it disappears magically overnight.
That's if you're lucky enough to get it delivered in the first place.
You know what amazes me is that if I order something from England, I can get it within a few days. And I order something from here in Canada, and I might have to wait a few weeks.
Right, Rob from Klingspor said, "Oh, Mark, should I bring details on the Klingspor health and safety course on safe use of abrasives?"
I can't do this. Stop it.
We're going to rename you the Happy Turner.
I'm going to run out of smocks if I have to use them to cover everything in this workshop.
It's a lovely blue colour you've got there, though.
Well, that one back here. This one.
Yeah.
Yes. You can't see that now because I've changed camera.
Yeah. Anyone would think you copied mine.
No, I just wanted one of each colour.
I'm not having it. I'm not having it. You saw mine and Katie's smock and you thought, I like that better than all those biscuit coloured ones.
Yeah, something like that.
Well, the tan-colored ones don't show the wood dust as much as the darker one does. But if you're standing around talking to people, the blue one looks spiffier.
Spiffier.
Do I need to translate to English?
Nope. I understood that.
Make sure the tool rest is tight.
Andy Bundy Rose put in, Mark, the happy fluffy Turner.
Hey, that worked.
I feel timeouts coming.
Just tell me when, I'll do it. Oh, Jamie's in. Hiya, Jamie. Just to let everybody know, Jane has just shouted hi to Jamie.
And Donna Love Angel has come in.
Oh, Donna's in as well. Sorry I missed you, Donna. Right, Douglas Mungham is asking, what is a good chuck to fit a 1.5 by 6 TPI thread? There are various people that do 1.5 by 6 TPI Let me think. I think Robert Sorby do one. The Sorby
I'd say
truck
Robert
has
Sorby.
a
Yeah.
yeah. They have a 1.5 by 6.
If it's for the union
Um,
graduate, yeah.
Yeah, the graduate lathe or the old Poolwood 2840. That was
Right.
an 1.5 by 6 as well.
I know the graduate that I've got at the shop has got an old Supernova 2, and that's obviously that's on the graduate. So the Nova trucks, I would imagine, do as well.
Rob's got to shoot off. See you later, Rob. And I will email you tomorrow.
See you later, Rob. See you on Thursday, mate.
Roy's asking what the wood is.
The bottom is elm.
The box body. The box body is elm, and the lid is ash.
Yes.
Yeah,
Brian
Brian-
Green's just come in.
Yeah.
Sorry, Ruby.
That's okay.
Jamie has just said, Mark is a graduate. He's got his repeat now.
Oh, and
Right, so I'm
Mike
using
Clark has joined us.
I'm using a 1-inch scraper in the bottom, slightly radiused. See, it's got a slight radius on it, so that both corners don't touch at the same time. And I am trailing it down slightly at the front because it's not a negative rake.
And Hodgepodge just come in. You're on your Robert Hodge channel, by the way, not Hodgepodge Woodworks, just to let you know.
Well, no doubt Harry is with him.
Kev, that was Torlundi Woodworks. He's from up in the Highlands. Kev was just asking that he saw somebody else got his RPT today.
They've done quite a bit of recruiting of the RPT.
Yeah.
I don't know if people know Dave Dolby. He does a lot on Instagram, and he's a professional in every sense of the word, from mass-produced stair spindles and things like that. And he's never been on the RPT, and he's just recently come onto the RPT. So they are doing a lot of recruiting at the moment.
I spoke to Dave, and I was so pleased he'd got it.
Yeah.
Because if ever there was a definition
work.
of if ever there's him and Steve Jones, if ever there's like definition of what a professional turner is, it's those two.
Without doubt, yeah.
Right, so I'm using a spindle gouge now. I've used a scraper to go down the inside, but the very nature of it being a scraper means it doesn't give the best finish. So I'm going to use a spindle gouge just to go down the inside edge. And as I'm going down, I'm going to be looking over here at about 5 o'clock because I'm not going to be able to see what's happening here. So rubbing the bevel, just get the cut. And as I get the cut, just rotate slightly.
I've still got to get my workshop sorted so I can go forward. Andy Pickard asked me to apply as well. I was just getting the workshop sorted, and then we got flooded.
Well, I can feel for you, Wayne. I had that happen once here, and it was not pleasant.
No, I mean, this is our, I don't know, 8th, 9th time, something like that.
Does it cause
not
much
cool.
damage to your
This was
workshop?
the worst one, though. Oh,
Hey,
yes, it did,
Stephen,
Dan, yeah.
Stephen the Wood Dude has joined us. Good evening, Stephen.
Evening, Stephen.
Our shop used to get flooded before we moved.
Yeah, I know, that was an absolute nightmare, that.
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, we've moved now into we've moved twice since that flood. Well, since we've been flooded, we moved twice. We're in a much better position than we were now. But it's not a nice experience. You can kind of look back on it and smile, but the reality is it's shocking when you've got to try and you've got maybe an hour to get your stuff moved, if that.
Yeah, I mean, this one, I don't like harping on about, but this one was the worst. I mean, we had around about 16 inches throughout the house.
Wow.
And we're in a single story.
Right. So whereabouts is that a river flood then? Is that something that's?
Yeah, it's a river flood. Yeah. Well, we're in a valley. We're only about 65, 66 foot above sea level, but we're in a valley, and it's a combination of the rain coming down from the hills and the river breaking its banks.
Right.
Well, the time I had mine, I ended up with 3 feet of water in the basement, which is where my lathes are. The guys that were working the pumps that night were playing video games instead of turning the pumps on.
Oh, brilliant.
The chap who built the pumping station walked in on them, told them to get off their butts and go turn the pumps on, and they said, "Who the heck are you?" He said, "I'm the guy who built this pumping station. Now get off your butts and go do it." And of course, the city denies that that's why we had the flooding. But I was downstairs, and one minute there's a trickle of water going through the hole in the floor. Next minute, I've got a 3-foot geyser.
Wow.
But you could tell that was not from natural causes.
Right. That's the inside turned.
Right, hang on a minute, Mark. Jamie's just put something in there. He's a fluffy turner. He wears a fluffy hat. He gets some fluffy parcels. And hopes his wood don't crack.
Just shampoo that edge down inside. I'm just ignoring him. Just going to ignore him.
Don't rise to it, Mark. There's nothing worse than a bully, is there?
No, that's it.
Yeah. We'd never say anything like that to you, would we?
Never.
Really
To be fair, it could be worse. You could have sent you something else through the post.
I was dreading it. I knew it'd come, see, because I had a notification from Amazon. And I was like, oh, what have you done?
Sorry, I'm just currently trying to log on to the ITV website so I can watch a bit of football.
Okay, that's
Okay.
fine.
Peter Kelly's asking, question, do you have to be a full-time turner to be an RPT?
You don't have to be a full-time turner, no.
But you do have to meet their criteria, and the first one is being a British citizen.
Well, I think that might be changing.
Yes.
I don't know exactly the details, but I think that there are some internationals that are interested, and I say that in the most respectful way possible. But people that aren't from the UK, that I do think they're considering at the moment, from my understanding of it.
They are.
And I think they probably should, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
You have to meet certain criteria. Gone are the days where a minimum of a third of your income has to come from wood turning. That's been removed. But you have to demonstrate that you are
Competent.
able to sell and have evidence of having sold some of your work. Plus other criteria that you have to meet.
Right, Jamie's asking a question. Okay, time to be controversial. Can you be an RPT if you use carbides? Why
Yes.
not?
I would say yes.
Which again, but you have to be able to explain why.
You've got to be you've got to be able to turn competently and safely, and if you can turn safely with a spoon, then in theory, as long as you're safe and showing safe practice, then why not?
Well, I think you have to realize too, the carbides have their place, but that, regular tools have their place as well.
Yeah.
And you have to know when you should be using which one, not saying that everything should be turned with a carbide, because softer woods do not take turning with a carbide very well, whereas harder woods actually turn better with a carbide than they do with regular tools.
I mean, I've got to say that I've been very much a traditionalist in terms of wood turning tools. I always have been, up until the point where I used Jamie's negative rake at Maker Central last year on some resin that was just on anything else, any tool on it other than that negative rake that I used. It just chipped out in chunks, but it came off in ribbons, and that was the turning point for me to kind of accept that there is a place. And the other thing is that carbides are so accessible for someone starting out, in terms of cost.
Exactly.
So it's a really fine balance to have. But there's some great carbides on the market. But it's like you say, I do stand by the fact that a shear cut with a bowl gouge is unachievable with a carbide. But it's like you say, hollowing, doing resin work and things like that. You are hollowing end grain.
Don't let Glenn Teagle you say that. He does shear cuts with his carbides.
Does
he?
It?
He gets a really good.
Well, it depends too on which carbide bit you're using. There are the cupped ones, there are the flat ones.
Yes, Jamie, it is done.
There are some with negative rakes as well.
Right, so in with the Yorkshire, in with the true grit. I knew it happened eventually once.
Sorry, Mark.
Never said a word. I'll edit that out.
Yeah.
In with the true grit, made in Yorkshire.
It's not a word that people have to try and exclude from around me. There's a lot of people in this group that know how much Yorkshire grit was important to me as it's a great product. It is. There's no hiding it.
And to be honest,
Mark and I tend to have it. Yeah, Mark and I tend to have it. We tend to have a gentleman's agreement when I'm on his show and when he's on my show.
Yeah, and that's the easy way to do it, because you can be friends, and you can support different companies, and you can support rival companies, but business is separate from friendship. And Wayne's my friend, and I like to think I'm his friend. I would never embarrass him by trying to promote the product that I support on his show, and I know he would never do the same with mine. And we choose who we choose because we made our beds, we're lying in them. Simple as that. I went to True Grit because Dan had blackmail on me, and
yeah, I mean those photographs were pretty incriminating, to be honest. So, and we'll keep it there.
Yeah, I don't know who told Mark I was his friend though.
Do you want me to?
Acquaintance.
Jamie's just put in there. Mark and I have an agreement too. I send him stupid stuff in the post and he accepts it.
Yeah, and I don't hurt him the next time I see him.
You now have 71 people watching you, Mark.
Oh,
Gosh, brilliant. Thank you, everybody.
excellent.
Well, the easy bit's done. The base is always the easiest bit.
Now, Martin says regarding carbide versus traditional, let's say you've turned the outside with traditional tools, and now you're using a number 1 hollow wear for the inside. Is that not using a bit of both? And I think that's fine.
Right. Now let's get this traditional thing out of the way to start off with. How long do you have to, or how long does a tool have to be on the market before it becomes traditional?
Exactly.
Well,
Ooh.
in fact, if you go back to the 16th, 1700s, they were using scrapers back then.
And they were carbons,
on
high
board,
carbon.
yeah, but the thing is, if you look at back in the 60s and 70s, for turning bowls, it always used to be scrapers. Bowl gouges didn't come in until Peter Child
Right.
developed the long and strong in, I can't remember, I think that was in the late
83, wasn't
60s
it?
or the early 70s. No, it was a bit earlier than that, I think.
Yeah,
Was it mid-70s then, was it?
about that.
Around about that time. Before then, it was always scrapers.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Well, you
interestingly,
look at what I
a
did with this.
scraper.
If you think this is basically a bowl by any other means, and I used a bowl gouge to get the most of it out, but the bottom I did with a scraper. It's called a bowl scraper or box
But
scraper.
a scraper does fall into that traditional tool bracket. I guess it's the difference between a carbide is that it's a separate tip, isn't it? And I think that's the
it's a separate. It's a different type of tool steel, if you like.
Well, as Lewis
But yet again,
There you go.
go on,
Yes,
Ruby.
box.
Oh, sorry,
well,
Lewis.
as Lewis,
Yet again. Go on, I'll stop.
all right. As Lewis says, the traditional tool was a rock.
Yeah.
Well, that's true.
And he's right. But I think it's the fact that the carbides are interchangeable. They're very small, and they're a different material than the high-speed steel.
Where are we on now? Chuck number 3.
But yet again, high-speed steel is a different material to high-carbon steel.
That's right.
Which only started being developed again back in the 70s, 80s.
Right. Now we start to get a little bit technical. Because this is a cross grain box. Okay? So it's going to move more than an end grain box would. Oh, that was close. Okay. Perfect judgment by a professional wood turner. I meant to say there. Not. Oh, that was close. So this box, the grain is running left to right here or right to left, whichever way you're looking at it. This will move with the seasons. It'll move more than an end grain box would. So the fit you're looking for on one of these boxes is a good old French fit. Too loose. It needs to be loose, but doesn't need to be stupidly loose. So I've measured the inside. I want to come out just a little bit. I've measured the inside.
There's been.
Go on.
Sorry, Mark. There's been a couple of things going on in the chat about RPT. Right, Kev said, just so it says about style, design, quality and finish on the RPT site, do you have to design something new? I would say no, because there is nothing new as far as I'm aware at this point in wood turning. Katie has answered that. saying you definitely don't have to design something new. It's demonstrating ability for design and understanding different design as opposed to creating something completely unique.
I agree with
Peter's
that.
put in, Peter's put in, they were talking about, or somebody mentioned rock about the first tool. Pete's put in, Lewis, it was flint when Wayne started turning, but only he and Terry remember using it. Oh, cheers, Pete. And Jamie's put in, when did Wayne stop using flints to turn wood? Thanks, Jamie.
AGK Woodworks has joined us. I'm sorry I don't
Hi,
know
Andrew.
your first name. Andrew?
It's Andrew. Yeah, it's Andrew. He may well, the way he was at the weekend, he may well still have a headache. And he probably still can't sing.
I think Katie needs to put RPT at the end of her name.
Yeah, I
considering
think
she's
she does as well,
the
to tell you the truth.
youngest registered professional woodturner in the UK is Katie. I'll give her a little plug.
You were at one time, weren't you, as well?
No, I don't think I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. I've
Simon
never.
Hope was, wasn't he? Simon Hope was.
Yeah, Simon Hope was, yeah.
I think there was someone. I think there is someone technically younger than me between me and Katie. I think.
So just start to hollow out the lid.
Right, Jamie's just put in there, Andrew, that's AGK, has made him a resin and aluminium bowl blank. That's aluminium shards from a metalworking lathe, which he spent a hell of a lot of time washing and everything to get all the oil and everything off that, and then put them all into resin. And Jamie is going to do a giant donut.
Right.
Andrew, am I right in thinking that you are Tony Wilson, RPT's nephew? Based on the fact that Tony Wilson was the person who taught me how to wood turn in the first place.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. He certainly never mentioned that to me, or maybe he has.
I know there's someone who.
Yeah, yes, he did. He did. Now, Tony Wilson, if I remember rightly, he's a wheelchair user, isn't he?
He is, yeah. So Tony broke
I
his back in a mining accident.
I remember seeing Tony way back in the 90s at various big wood turning shows.
Catch.
What you don't catch that, Mark?
Did you do that in the first one you turned before?
I used different. No, I didn't.
Right. Tony used to turn from a wheelchair, and Birstall Wood Turning Club, which is now next to our shop, used to be actually based in Birstall, and it was above the Classic Car Museum, and it had a big flight of stairs. And Tony used to carry his bag up the steps and drag his wheelchair behind him up the stairs because there was no lift.
Oh, bloody hell! Yeah, I mean, back in the late 80s, early 80s, going through probably till the mid late 90s, wood turning shows in the UK used to be huge.
Mm-hmm.
If you the likes of Maker Central, the size of the hall that Maker Central is, the wood turning shows used to be the size of those halls purely for wood turning.
Mm-hmm. We used to have like Alexandra Palace and places like that. I remember going as a kid to
Wembley Arena.
Yeah,
as well. There used to be a big one there.
Well, Brian Green has to go. His mom's been in a car accident.
Oh,
I hope she'll be okay.
Yeah, Me as well. See you later, Brian.
Andrew, does Tony still turn, or has he given up altogether now?
Andrew says yes, he is, and he kicks my butt all the time.
Paul Cavan is asking, is there not a minimum height for turning? Now,
You want to ask that to Emma Cook?
Yeah, exactly. But you can get lathes that have been developed for people that use wheelchairs.
Well, actually, the last time I was in France, there was a young fellow turning. He had a wheelchair. And what they did was took the legs off of one of the lathes, and they literally took blocks and built it to his height and arranged it so that he could use the wheelchair with it. And I mean, it was down about my knee level, and he was having
But
no
you get
trouble
there. Right. And Andrew's just put in that Tony's unable to turn now due to health issues. Oh God, forgetting his name. The guy from Hartlepool, Dan.
Dennis White.
Yeah, Dennis. One of the layers that he's got for teaching is built purely for people that are wheelchair users.
The one way I think have in fact they've got one in the club next to us. One way I've got one that adjusts.
Jamie's just said that Robust make one as well.
Yes.
Yeah, I think Weaver might do as well.
Yeah, I tested the Robust one when it first came out, and the way it operates is that you pull a lever and the ways the bed actually rotate and turn towards you. And you wait till they get down to the height that you need to work at, and then you lock it in place.
How does the tool rest work with those that tilt forward, though?
It goes with it.
Does the bed come down so it's still horizontal, Ruby?
It's not horizontal. It's kind of on an angle.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And the one way operates basically the same thing, same way.
It just always puzzles me how the tool, that the banjo obviously tilts with the bed. So how the tool rest works.
Yeah, it's quite different. But you know what's interesting is that at least these people aren't giving up and saying, I'm a cripple, I'm hopeless. They're going ahead and finding ways of continuing to work and grow and experiment, same as all the rest of us.
That's the whole reason why I started. You know, I was much more disabled then than I am now.
Well, actually, the turning has done you a lot of good. Like when you first started, you had hardly any voice. You were whispering. Now you talk in a normal voice. You've developed the strength back in your voice.
My regular earworms, no. But
didn't we make a bloody mistake there?
A lot of my regular earworms, no, but not very many other people knew. When I used to start doing these lives, my walking stick was just off the end of the lathe. And it was always just out of sight, but I had to use it quite often. There's a lot of clever camera work in the early days, wasn't there, Wayne?
I mean, nowadays you'd probably just put a smock over it nowadays, wouldn't you?
I would.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Bit of beeswax.
Yeah, Mark used to have a mattress behind him on the floor just in case.
You'd have thought he'd have swept the floor actually when you look around, wouldn't you?
I swear to God, don't you start.
What's the bit of wood with the circle cut out of it for?
That bit, that's a cardboard.
All right.
Protects my headstock when I do artistic stuff.
So when you had your RPT assessment for your workshop safety, how did that go?
Went very
well.
That's
very nice. Yeah.
See?
That's very nice.
Yeah. Went very well. Hence the big yellow cabinet here.
Yeah. It's a nice yellow cabinet, though.
Fireproof
Yeah.
cabinet.
Yeah,
Indian
Jamie
white.
and Jamie has said. Jamie said he nearly had a pool behind him too, but removed it from his Amazon cart the next morning.
Yeah, that's true. I did.
That was some night. That was.
That was an object lesson in don't drink a whole bottle of vodka, and then go surfing on eBay to possibly buy a pole dancing pole.
So I thought you said don't have a full bottle, go surfing then. I mean, I know you're in Bude.
Yeah, don't do that.
And Baz has just come in. Good evening, Baz.
Pete was just commenting on when I used his lathe, and he thought I was surrendering until the shaving started. That's because the spindle height was just about at eye height for me.
Oh dear me.
Right.
It's quite different when you're holding your hands up at about eye height to make the tool work.
Oh, Gerard said that that he sometimes turns in the pink tutu. I mentioned that earlier on, Gerard.
Yes, that was at the start of the program, Gerard. It was good. Hey, you have to give Mark a lot of credit. Not many guys have the guts to come out in a pink tutu and let the world see him.
It was for charity, so
Right, but
quite happy to do it.
regardless, it was still something that a lot of men aren't brave enough to do.
You've got to give Mark a lot of credit. Not a lot of wood turners was actually going doing a live like he does.
That's true. I mean, you and I would have practiced for hours ahead, right, Wayne?
Oh, I always practice. Every time I do a live, I'll practice beforehand. Every time.
You liar! You dirty liar! Right, so I know where I'm going.
Right, Kev, I'm sorry, I must have missed that bit about sitting down. I'll
Right.
go back and see if I can find it.
Where's my pencil?
Right, Kev has said he finds it different sitting and turning is your body doesn't move with the cut like a standing turner does. New skills have to be learned. He supposes that's why he turns both-handed.
Well,
I think I do as well, tell you the truth.
I've made a point of learning how to turn with both hands. It gets you out of a lot of trouble when you're doing odd jobs.
Oh, definitely. Lucy's asking, is there footage of the tutu? Have you left her up there, Mark?
Yeah, it's still up on my YouTube channel.
Yeah, Lucy, it'll be in one of it. If you go into Mark's channel and look back through the videos, it was a charity one that he did. Oh, what, 3 years ago?
April 2 years ago. Because I know it was near my birthday.
Pete from Twisted Trees has said, I have my first actual real person demo in about 1,000 years coming up soon. I have so far cut the demo piece 5 times to practice it. Now, I remember the first time Mark was doing the virtual crafty. He was doing a goblet on the virtual crafty.
Yes, but hold on. To be fair, the virtual crafts thing, you were between two other makers, and you had to be finished in 59 minutes. You could not go over. So
yeah.
that's my defense.
How many pieces did you do?
12.
12. I tell you, now this might seem a strange thing to say, but if you've seen Chris Fisher, the blind wood turner, doing any of his work on his YouTube channel or Facebook or whatever, try and have a go. Okay? Try and have a go with the eyes closed, because it is absolutely mental. Now, there's another turn. There's quite a few disabled turners out there. Jason Rockhold is one that I keep on coming back to. He's a guy from the States who's only got one arm. Try one-handed turning.
A lot of those
Andrews. Sorry, Ruby, go on.
A lot of those guys who turn one-handed, or because they've either lost the hand or they've had a stroke or something, they put special guides on their tool rest, and that helps them control the tool as they're turning.
Yeah. Chris Fisher, the blind wood turner, he used to use a string a lot of time to guide him. Now, Andrew has said, this is AGK, a lot of his first turns were done sat down, because that's the way he was first taught by Tony Wilson.
There's I know a guy called Bill Mooney. He does a lot of pens.
My chat's about to run away, but John Braden has said, "Hi guys, I turn sitting in a wheelchair." Sorry about that, Dan.
No, it's all right. I was just going to say, Bill Mooney, he turns a lot of pens and sells them for veterans charities in the UK. And he's well, I say he's blind. He's tunnel vision, so he's got a really, really reduced vision. And I've watched him turn, and he turns, and he knows that if his face shield's rubbing against his chuck, he knows that he's too close. And I'm not joking there. His face is that close to the lathe with his face shield on that he knows based on how close his chuck is to his visor.
Well, at least he's smart enough to wear a visor.
That's very true. That's very true.
Right, now, JP, some people won't know what JP's talking about here. But JP is just written in there. I went down on my knees to see what it was like for AGK to turn. I don't know how he does it. That's Jamie extracting the urine from Andrew because he is short.
Vertically challenged.
Well, that's not all bad, Mark. Just because some of us are vertically challenged doesn't mean we're incompetent.
Oh, have you seen what Ben's put in there? There are lots of people who turn with issues to overcome. Just look at Brian. He manages to turn, he's Scottish. Now, there's a guy in Australia, and I totally forget his name. And he was born with some birth defects, where basically I think his right hand or right hand arm is very, very short and doesn't have fingers. And I don't know about his left arm, I can't remember now, but the stuff that he turns is absolutely amazing.
Was he born with birth defects, was he?
Well, he might have been one of those thyroid babies from back when we were younger, Wayne.
Yeah.
And I've had a couple of them in classes that I've taught in regular school, I'm talking about. And the one in particular, he went on to be a very excellent basketball player. And that's kind of amazing when you're a short person with even shorter arms. It comes back to whether you look at yourself and see yourself as being handicapped or not.
Well, that's true.
I don't see myself as being disabled anymore. I was. And I still technically have a blue badge. But I don't park in disabled base, and I don't class myself as disabled anymore.
Disabled any less either, mind.
No, that's true. I certainly can't turn treasure box, that's for certain. Richard Raffin, if you watch this, I'm sorry.
I found that the best parking spaces now are the parent and child ones, but it's a very expensive way to get cheap parking space.
Jimmy said he's got a black and yellow badge now.
Yeah. Doing black and yellow tomorrow night as well.
Oh no, you're not. You're not, are you?
Black and gold.
Oh my lord.
Hey, the club's paying. They asked for it.
Kev's just wrote, that looks like something for nursing babies.
Let me turn that off. You can see it better. Yeah, so, Mr. Raffin, if you do happen to watch this, I'm really sorry. Yours are much better. If anybody wants to know how to do this properly, go and watch Richard Raffin on YouTube. Man, he's a bit of a master.
You're not the only one biting your tongue over the shape markers turning now. There have been quite a few comments. I just haven't mentioned them.
They are just ignoring it.
It's a very pert lid you've created there.
It is, isn't it? Like the way I'm caressing the sounding sealer into it.
Yeah, it's making me a little bit disturbed now.
Yep, probably would.
You won't ask if you're working on turning then, Dan.
Is it cold in your workshop? Sorry, Ruby, what did you say?
You're turning in your workshop then?
I missed the first part of that. I had... Sorry.
Ask Dan how to roll beads, Ruby. How good is he at rolling beads? That's all I'm going to say.
I'm not sure I should, Mark. There's obviously something to that comment that I'm not aware of.
I had better days that day, I'm not going to lie. And I was kind of put on the spot. But I'm a lot better now.
What tool do you use for turning beads? Let me ask you that.
Oh, me.
What tool were you using that day?
Generally not a skew chisel. No, actually, to be fair, so what Mark is finding highly hilarious is that me and Mark were at an event in the UK, along with many other people, and Katie was there as well. And Richard Finlay, who is very, very competent with a skew, was at the other side of the room. And Katie had gone and had a little lesson with him and then managed to stitch me up. And I ended up going over and in front of what was seemingly an audience, using a skew, which is something that I just don't really use, or I didn't really use, and didn't perform very well.
It was a beading and parting tool.
Sorry. I don't do a lot of spindle work in that way. What it did do, I performed terrible, but what it did do is I came away from it wanting to master it and learn how to use it. And to a certain degree, I have had a go and I have practiced with it more. I need to do more, but I have practiced with it more.
Well, that's a good attitude. And I found that if you start with a beading parting tool, it's a good lead up to using a skew for turning beads and stuff.
To be honest, Ruby, it was a very clever marketing ploy by Richard Finlay to get somebody who doesn't turn beads that often to use Richard's signature beading and parting tool to turn beads. Because he must have sold about 50 or 60 tools off of that.
What, off of my demo?
Yeah.
I don't know how he did.
Jury's Woodturners just come in.
I got set up once. I was scheduled to teach a beginner spindle class at a Lee Valley store in Toronto. And when I arrived, I didn't know that they had booked the entire class as being a spindle class with using only a skew. But I taught the class anyway, just using the skew. And but that was a challenge, I'll tell you.
I do
Because
actually find if you get time to just stick a piece between centres and leave it on your lathe when you're not actually turning a project, and just go up to it and do, you just have a go or just keep practicing. That was one thing that was always told when I was starting out, is that the difference between professional wood turners and hobbyists are the fact that professionals practice every day.
Yep. Before I do a large spindle order or something, I'll spend an hour or two practicing.
So Katie's just come in. Katie's just come into onto that chat and said that the lesson that I talk about for Katie was turned into a demo for her. So she feels she got stitched up and therefore stitched me up in return.
Uh-huh.
Fair dues, Katie.
Damn right, Katie. Damn right.
Right. Now I'm gonna have to hold on a sec. I need to do this, then that. Hello, everybody.
Put it back.
Prepare yourselves, because you're coming back on screen now, Dan.
Show the piece first. Show the piece first.
Yes.
Do I have to? There you go.
There you go.
Bit of a Dalek. But that's a treasure box, because it's hollowed out inside, quite tall up inside the lid. Hollowed all the way down in the bottom. Nice loose fit. That's a treasure box. Bottom, detailed.
I don't see your
If
name.
you size everything the right way, you don't get any teeth marks from the holding points. So there you go. Now I'll bring you guys back in. Stop biting your lip, you. No, it doesn't work right. It's not right.
It's beautiful, Mark.
This should have come up and mirrored this a bit more. Two different shapes going on there. It's not beautiful, but it's functional. Not a best piece. But that's finished with True Grit.
Kev said,
And
very nice, but
these
stop fondling it.
Yeah. I think Kim wasn't in tonight, was she? She was working. I know she sent me a couple of messages, but I think she's forgotten I'm live on YouTube.
No, she didn't come in, Mark, no.
No.
And Katie has said, me and Dan should have a skew competition now, I'm confident. There you go, Dan.
There's a challenge for you.
What Katie hasn't realised is I basically could just unplug her lathe. So Katie would win. Katie is very competent with the skew now. So
yes, JP, Dan is a repeat as well. We're repeats. I don't think it. Thanks, Fred, but I honestly don't think it looks great.
Well, Drury said
Ruby's very much been training me on form and design, and I know she's going to shout at me after this because that doesn't work.
I think that the shape of the top.
Okay, right.
The form of the top's
Is that going to go like you said there? Ruby has been training me on design. Is that going to go something like, nah, should have done better?
Yeah, yeah, you've done better. Don't put that one out, then leave it there. Take it down after a while. But it has to have a loose fit because obviously it's cross grain, so this will move. It is also two different types of wood, so the grains will move in different amounts given the different seasons.
So from a self-critical point of view, what would you have done differently?
I'd have started off with big practice. I'd have started off with bigger pieces of wood. I'd have prepared a little bit easier, a bit better, and I would have shaped the top differently. I would have made the top angular instead of rounded.
Because actually, the top has got a real nice form to it. I think the top has a real nice form to it.
Yeah, the top on its own is nice.
So why don't you make a new bottom for the top and a new top for the bottom?
I probably will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, you can credit for that one
Actually,
there.
I agree with Dan. The shape and form of the top is good. But I agree with the first statement you made, Mark, that it doesn't quite match with the shape and form of the bottom.
Done.
Well, if you had practiced first, or sat down with a pencil and paper, you could have designed your shape and form.
If you guys only knew the grief I'm going to get later.
Oh dear me.
Look, I've even run out of coffee. Right. That's going to be it
Yes,
for me
yes,
tonight.
Andy, red wine tonight.
Yeah. Question for Dan: is speed your friend?
I would say if it's safe, yes.
Another question for Dan: are you at Newark?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Yes. Are you at Newark, Mark?
Well, I am now. Yeah.
Right. Well, Katie's at Newark as well.
Yeah.
We'll all be there.
We'll be there
We'll be there.
demoing, turning kits and using grit. Turning pen. I've got to get back into
There
turning
you go.
pens.
Oh, good. So
Actually, can I volunteer to turn bottle stoppers and bottle openers?
Yes.
Thank
We
you.
make some beautiful British-made bottle stoppers.
You do.
On the bottle
Yeah.
stoppers, just don't put a point on the top. Do you know how hard it is to push down to get a stopper in with the point going into the base of your palm of your hand?
Wayne and I never understand the need for bottle stoppers. Open bottle, drink
Screw
contents,
cap.
throw bottle away.
Screw cap.
Wayne, there's never anything left to be able to put a bottle stopper in the top. You're in my house anyway. Right. So, thank you, Wayne. Thank you, Ruby.
Mind,
Thank you, Dan.
can I just say, the next time if I'm at the show and the next time you're demonstrating for Dan and you get some tear out on a bowl, let me give you a hand.
To be fair, we got Les Thorne to have a go at that bowl, and he couldn't get rid of it either. And he was using his super special shear cut with a spindle gouge, and he couldn't get rid of it either.
I missed the end of that one because I got pulled away
you
to do a
didn't
sale.
let me have a go.
No, true. Because the last time you had a go when I was doing a demo, you showed me up. You turned the bloody four-cornered bowl and kept the corners on. Right. Thank you, Dan. Thank you for doing your first earworming as well.
Thank you for
Hopefully
having
not
me.
the last.
I hope we'll
No.
see you again, Dan.
Thank you. I will work on my Mark-related jokes for the next one.
Right.
That's gonna be like
To answer Peter Kelly, I don't think there is a distributor in the UK for Icon lathes.
No, there isn't.
That's not a big loss, believe me. I turned on them teaching in a lot of the Lee Valley stores here in Canada, and we had a lot of trouble with the electronics on them and getting them repaired.
Okay. Right, I'm going to have to shoot off, guys.
All right.
I will catch you all later.
Thank you, everybody. Oh,
Night.
Wayne's on. Hold on, Wayne's on tomorrow night. Before he goes.
Yes, I am.
Let's
8
get Wayne's on
o'clock,
tomorrow
usual time.
And Thursday, probably be Brian at some point.
Night.
Night, Wayne. And Friday, maybe Wayne. Definitely not me, because I've got to go to Axminster and pick up a car full of logs. Happy days.
I'm jealous.
A whole car full for £60. And Saturday night, Wayne will be back. Saturday night. So that's it from us. Thank you ever so much, everybody. You don't go anywhere, Dan. Stay for a second. I'll close the broadcast off. So I'll say good night, and I'll see you all next week. Bye-bye.
Good night.